Welcome back. We are now in a time where we're seeing these nations play the last few games before the World Cup. I think this is the second to last break before the season ends. So I do think that for now we should have a complete idea of how every single team plays, how the squad looks like, how the lineup looks like, and what should our expectations be for every single team. Now, Portugal is a weird team because I don't think they are considered favorites by any means, but I do think they are to be considered as contenders for the World Cup. If some things go along their way, I do think they have the squad and the ability enough to win the World Cup. I do think that the only thing that's really on their way to be able to really make a great team is a manager. We'll talk about that a little bit more into depth along the video. Another thing that in the last few games, obviously the loss against Ireland 2-0 and the 9-1 win against Armenia has made us learn a lot about Portugal, especially in terms of player selection, which players should play more and which players should play less. I feel like I do have to get more time and attention to Ronaldo, purely because the debate around him is now immense, especially in Portugal. Also because he played in that 2-0 loss against Ireland, which got a red card, and didn't play in the 9-1 win against Armenia, a game that Portugal obviously played way far better than the game against Ireland. I do think that especially among the Portuguese fans, the main topic between football is being that Ronaldo maybe doesn't serve to start for Portugal or that it serves. I think there's been a lot of controversy around that topic. Now, first of all, I do have to talk about his off-the-pitch behavior. I didn't really like the comments he had on that Piers Morgan interview. I think for a guy who is the captain of a Portugal team, who I think as is the best shot ever to win the World Cup, even us, obviously I'm Portuguese, I know this firsthand. For us Portuguese fans, I feel like this is maybe the first World Cup ever that we think we have a big shot or a good chance of winning the World Cup. And to see our captain, who has been our idol for 15 years now and counting, and again, a lot of people in our country, even that team, looks up to Ronaldo as their idol and as their icon. I do think that the comments he made about the World Cup not being his dream anymore didn't really sit right with me, and didn't really sit right with a lot of fans here in Portugal. I don't know what the reaction was within the Portugal squad. I don't think we ever know that. But I think it's really weird for Ronaldo to say that the World Cup isn't his dream anymore. It's only a 7-game tournament, which I think has been a really... How do I say this? I think a lot of people are like a lot of proof against that claim. That's not only a 7-game tournament. We've seen how Ireland reacted to even qualifying for the playoffs of the World Cup. Not really even qualifying for the World Cup, just for the playoffs. And I think it's been such a massive thing for Ireland as a country. I do think that it proves that the World Cup isn't only a 7-game tournament. So I do think that what he said in that interview kind of didn't really sit right with a lot of people, and especially for the team who's now coming to World Cup for the first time ever as a contender. Again, it doesn't really sit right with me, and I'm kind of sad to see Ronaldo say that. I don't know if it's only because Messi won it, because there's been a lot of occasions where Ronaldo has spoken about winning the World Cup will be a dream, with the perfect ending to his career. Not that Messi have won it. Maybe he's trying to change the debate or his opinion on that topic. I don't know if that's a reason, or if another reason as a rise. I don't know, but it feels a bit off, and it's a bit weird for your captain to talk like that. Also, the comments about him feeling Saudi Arabian. I mean, obviously, I don't really mind that comment. Obviously, he's been in Saudi Arabia for quite some time now. I think, 2 years? He has authorized to feel if it fits very well the culture. I just feel like before the World Cup, with all this controversy around the Portugal national team, for him to be talking about him feeling Saudi Arabian and being part of that country, again, it doesn't really sit right with me. I think he spent more time even in Italy than in Saudi Arabia so far in his career. He spent a lot of time in Spain, some time in England, and some time in Italy, maybe even more than Saudi Arabia. And again, for him not to be talking like that, for him to defending Saudi Arabian league, saying it's better than the French league, the Portuguese league, saying it's easier for him to score goals. Easier to score goals in Spain than in Saudi Arabia. I just feel like he's now really, I don't know what happened with him. I do think that the comments in the interview kind of puts me off a little bit in terms of him being on the right mindset mentally. Also because we've seen him, I think for the first time in a long time in his career. Maybe I feel like lately that's kind of happening a bit more often. But I feel like it's the first time for Portugal that I've seen him actually get rattled so much in a game. Got a red card for throwing an elbow at the defender. And obviously the defender was pushing his shirt, but I do think that's now something that happens occasionally in football. So for him to actually be rattled by that, I do think that before in his career, he had received far more, I will say this. I don't want to say criticism, I don't think it's criticism, but far more, I don't know, it's just kind of provoking him, and now in response to that, which really feel like a really big issue. I don't know, I feel like you will not in the right mindset mentally to be able to captain this team to win the World Cup. So that's a big reason as my problem with Ronaldo so far. Also, the main debate with Ronaldo is the fact that Ramos hasn't played pretty well for Portugal when he's come off the pitch. And the last game against Armenia, he had a very good game from Ramos. I think that the main debate is between who should start, Ronaldo or Ramos. I, for now, am still a defender of Ronaldo. I do think so many goals scored. Even though look at the stats in this qualifying group stage, it was our main top goals scored. Even look at Nations League, which we won, it was our main top goal scored. And for a team in Portugal, they don't really have a winger who's able to score goals at a very high rate. Looking at Spain, they have Yamal there, who's able to score so many goals. Looking at Mbappe, I think that's a prime example. A left wing was able to score so many goals for France. I don't think that Portugal has that anyways. I think the guy who's closest to being a goal-scoring winger is Rafael Leão. I think we all know he's not really a goal-scoring winger. I do think that for the team to work or for us to be able to produce offensively against big teams, we need to have a main goal scorer in our team. And the only player that team was able to do that at a higher level has been Ronaldo. Also, Ramos is a great player. I don't think he's really that big of a goal scorer. However, I do think Ramos provides a lot more in terms of great technical play and great off-ball pressing. I do think that in Argentina, you could ever see a difference on him being involved in both offensive play and defensive play. I think a lot of games where Ronaldo kind of disappears a lot, and also Ramos is less inclined to do that because he's a guy that obviously appears a bit more in technical play, appears a bit more into off-ball pressing. I didn't remember seeing Portugal press so much off the ball with Ronaldo on the pitch. And so Ramos, I feel like kind of added that breath of fresh air to our offense and our defense, especially in the first line of defense. I really like that. Now, I do still think Ronaldo should start, also because of the goal scoring issues we would have without him on the team. But I do think that the game time he's been getting, I think maybe he's played every single game. I think in majority of the games he's played in, he hasn't really been subbed off. And when he has, I think he's kind of protested on didn't really like being subbed off. I do think that moving towards in the future, Ramos should deserve to get more minutes. I think there are even some games where Ramos maybe deserves to start as Ronaldo. I think Ramos might be able to play better against some type of defensive lines. Also, Ronaldo might be able to play better against other types of offensive lines. Also, a guy who still scored against Germany and Spain, remember the most Nations League. I do still think he has something left in time to show for Portugal. Also, as I said, I do think this appears a lot. And that's the reason that's why I think Ramos should be able to get a lot more minutes. Also, as a super sub, we've seen with PSG, I think even had a goal against Barcelona as a super sub this season. Ramos, I think, having a great role in PSG as a super sub for Dembele. I do think that at Portugal, I can do something similar. His energy he brings onto the pitch will probably be more valuable in the 60 or 70 minutes than rather than what Ronaldo maybe bring on that time of the pitch, at the time of the game, because I do think Ronaldo also, even though all they talk about him having really a young body, I don't really trust that. I do think Ronaldo, in terms of more doing the later stage of the game, he can sometimes feel tired, and because of that, obviously, even gets more disappeared during the game. I do think having a guy like Ramos able to come off the bench and have that super sub contribution to Portugal, I feel like also something that's going to be very important for us in the World Cup. I do think that even though Ronaldo should start for now, I also do think Ramos should be a guy who's trusted a bit more for Martinez. But I think the main lesson we've learned from these two games that Bruno Fernandes should always play. I think his creativity and his play in the final third is just really amazing. The game against Argentina just showed that how great he was in terms of being able to create. The game against Ireland, he didn't play. He was suspended the game against Ireland, and I do think that the main course of action when Bruno is suspended or is not able to play in the game, I do think the first course of action should be to replace him with Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva obviously not a guy who can replace Bruno Fernandes' creativity or play in the final third, but I think it's a guy that can still provide some of that. And instead of Martinez, for whatever reason, decided to trust in the midfield trio of Ruben Neves, João Neves, and Vitinha, who is a midfield trio that I don't ever want to see ever again in this team, right? I don't ever want to see that midfield trio happen again for Portugal. But knowing Martinez and him being that bad of a coach, I do think that's going to happen. I don't think we're going to see that midfield trio probably play again in the game. But a big reason as to why I don't like the midfield trio was obviously without Bruno Fernandes in the midfield. Obviously, lose a lot of creativity that Bruno added. So when you have to know Bruno that creativity, you have to probably play João Neves everything a bit more up the pitch, right? Because also, even though they are amazing midfielders, I don't think they are that amazing as players the final third. Or if you want to replace the creativity that Bruno Fernandes has, I think you have to play João Neves everything a bit more up the pitch. So that leaves a big hole between João Neves and Vitinha and Ruben Neves. Ruben Neves, obviously, even a lot of times in Ireland, will sometimes drop to back three. even causing that gap to be even bigger in that midfield. I don't know why Martinez decided to go with that. And Juan Neves is a guy that does not have the physical or the physical attributes to play either as a centre back or as a lone DM role. It's not aggressive enough to win 1v1 duels in midfield. It's not fast enough to recover ground a lot. I think Chapolin would be a way much better player at at the lone DM role. A role has been playing at Spurs sometimes, even at Sporting a lot of times when he was there. It's a guy that was known for playing that role. A guy who's an amazing game breaker, would be amazing at defending transitions, which is something Ireland kind of took the most out of. They scored a lot of goals to transitions. And Ronaldo is a guy that cannot defend that. Ronaldo is a guy that his main skill set is passing. I think it's a guy that, even with his age coming up, I do think he doesn't deserve to play as much as he always plays. Even as centre back, I do think he's not good enough to play as centre back. I don't know why Martinez decided to all of a sudden play as centre back. I don't think he has the quality to play that position. I don't think, even against the goals against from Ireland in the game, when Ronaldo was playing centre back, I do think most of them were his fault. Or both of them were his fault. The lack of progression in him contesting to the shots just kind of speaks to me how bad of a DM Ronaldo is. I feel like he has to be partnered up. I feel like it's more of a Sean Neves beating a backup and Bruce on the pitch, more than a compliment to Sean Neves everything when they are both on the pitch. I don't think Sean Neves everything midfield will probably work way more better than what the Juan Neves midfield will do. So because it brings balance. And Fernandes being on the midfield also brings a lot of balance to the midfield. Also, as I said, Bruno Fernandes, as a creativity in the final third, is able to be the only guy to play in the final third. You can almost always play a 4-2-1, with John Neves everything playing double pivots. You can also, Bruno Fernandes allows John Neves everything to be a bit more cautious with the ball, not really go off the pitch as much. And in that, and also with doing that, you also give a bit more security defensively. Also, give to more players that you can really are great in the build-up phase of the play. Also, can very much help in that. I do think that for the whole midfield to work, I think it has to be John Neves beating. I think those are the two dialogues and the creator in the other spot, and that as Bruno Fernandes. They gave us a minute to show how amazing a player he is. He's a guy that I do think is being wasted at that pivot role at Man United. Also, he's the guy that, at any point in the game, even if it's not playing well, I think it's a guy that can pull off amazing crosses, amazing passes, and can win games for your team. And United this season, we've seen Bruno Fernandes win games for United. All of a sudden, like the game against Liverpool, Bruno wasn't playing that well, and all of a sudden, in the final place of the game, he made an incredible cross to Harry Maguire to the game. So it's a guy that win new games, and to get you the midfield to play all balance, I think you have to play him with Ronaldo everything. I also don't like the winger pairings of Rafael Young, Neto, and Bernardo Silva and João Felix. I do think that Rafael Young and Neto don't work because they are very similar players. I talked about this in the video that Pedro Neto is a very one-dimensional winger. Like, obviously has a lot of pace and is able to dribble defenders with his space. When there's a lot of space, he's not able to do much. Not a guy that, in terms of end products, is able to cross the ball into the box or able to score goals from long range or anything sort of that. I don't think it's a guy that can create a lot from nothing. And Pedro Neto and Rafael Young are two wingers who actually have the archetype. I don't think Rafael Young has a bit more end products on him than Pedro Neto. I do think at the end of the day, they are both players who are great at pace. That's the main strength is at pace. And they really play well when they have a space behind the defense. And Portugal is a team obviously are going to play very, very offensively every single game. We're going to play against teams who are not great, who are also going to play low blocks against you. That's why I think that maybe a pairing of Pedro Neto and Rafael Young, two wingers who obviously are not really effective against low blocks, won't probably work the World Cup. But also in some games where you're winning and you want to bet more attacking to transitions, I think that obviously pairing kind of works because Bernardo and Young are two wingers who would be amazing in terms of being able to play off transitions. But for the two play to start, I don't think that really the main case. Also, unlike Bernardo Silva and João Felix playing together, because of the similar reason, I think they are very similar players. I don't think, obviously, first of all, they are not natural wingers at all. João Felix and Bernardo Silva are players who play a bit more in midfield or as kind of second striker or players who play very close to the striker. I don't think they also are type of wingers who are able to create a lot when playing against low blocks. Against Ireland, we saw as the time that João Felix or Bernardo Silva have the ball at their feet, they'll be defended by three defenders from Ireland, and they will to be able, the only thing they were able to do was pass the ball back to midfielders or the fullback. And there was an endless cycle of making our offense look stale. I do think that if you want to be successful for World Cup, our winger pairing should be maybe Rafael Young. So I do think that between him and Pedro Neto, Rafael Young right now is the guy who has the most end product in him. And maybe because it's sound as right winger, I think it's a guy that's, as opposed to Bernardo Silva, João Felix, I think it's a guy that really can make everything out of nothing. It's a guy that, against two, three defenders, he can do against them, be able to cause something with that. I think between him and Trincão, I think maybe I'll rotate between him and Anthony Count, two guys who obviously are very different. Who sounds like guys who are more agile, so we put more towards dribbling. Anthony Count is like guys more creative. If you need someone who can have that passing ability or that we can play with the striker or the midfielders, Anthony Count is like guys that can do that be more better. I do think that I want to see Ronaldo Silva play right winger. I do think that his role will mostly come as a midfielder backup with Fernandes or to Vitinho or Neves. I do think that the main right wingers should be considered down Anthony Count and even possibly Pedro Gonçalves, a guy who's been playing very well for Sporting this season, and it's a guy that also can play on the left and on the midfield as well. And lastly, I want to talk about our forward situation. I don't think there should be a situation in the world where we go into a break with two very crucial games, because this will mean we're going to qualify to World Cup, and we've seen big teams not qualify to World Cup like Italy. And going to this break with 4 right backs and 0 left backs is just criminal. I know that Locke can play a left back, I know Cancelo can play left back, but obviously the Nunes being injured, there was no natural left back in the squad. And I don't know why Martinez thought that this as a good idea. Also, there are a lot of players at the left back position that deserve to play. Not a level from Braga, a guy that's been amazing this season so far. And so a lot of people called for him to be on the squad. He wasn't. Even Francisco Morda from Porto, I think it's a guy I don't think really deserves to be in the squad or has the level to be in the squad if all players are fit. But I do think that when Ursi comes, I feel like he's a guy that kind of deserves to be on the squad. Also, who was it? Valgeiro, also a guy who's playing at Bayern on the left, on the right, who's been amazing for Bayern. And for a reason, he has called. It doesn't get called over the law, over Semedo, or the Council of Saudi Arabian. I don't really understand why this selection was made, and that's why I have a bigger problem with Martinez. I do think his squad selections a lot of times are very doubtful. Also, the main thing that we got from this fullback situation, Tano Nunes is very, very important to our team. Maybe it's the most important player in our team. I think the defensive line just looks so much worse without him. He's a guy that obviously we know is an amazing defensive player, and I do think that now we're seeing Portugal defend without him. They consider 2 goals against Ireland, consider 1 goal against Armenia. I do think that Nunes is going to play a very key role at the defensive line. As well as offensively, I do think that he has had a massive influence offensively for us. I do think that his influence both on and off the ball, or both offensively and defensively, has been so good. I do think Nunes is by far the best left back in the world, the best fullback in the world. I do think Nunes is going to be probably our most important player for next year's World Cup. Also, I don't see that law play anymore for our country. He's a guy who's been in terrible club form at United, even playing as right wing back, as left wing back. He's been terrible in both those positions. And this is a guy that gets exposed so much defensively in a 5-man defense. Imagine that in a 4-man defense is early chaos. I don't think Ronaldo should not near the level of playing at this team. I don't know why Martinez insists on bringing Ronaldo to this team, insists on playing Ronaldo every single game. Obviously, he didn't play the last game. Thank God he went to Cancelo in the middle. I think it's a way better fullback pairing than Ronaldo playing there. I think it's a guy that right now, I think he's our 4th best right back. I do think that Cancelo, I think obviously will always be our main choice. Then Semedo will be our second choice. And I do think Matheus Nunes right now is a third option above Ronaldo. So Nunes who's been playing right back our position at Man City, but I think he's still playing way better than Ronaldo as being Man United and way better at the national team level than Ronaldo. And that's the last thing I want to talk about. Ronaldo should not be playing for this team. I don't think it's the quality enough. I don't think he has the form enough. I don't think he has anything to justify him still being in this team. And if he makes the World Cup next year, I'll be very angry. If he makes it over just Nunes or Semedo, I'll be very, very angry. If they don't bring in another left back up from the Nunes, I think it's also going to be another disaster. I think it's a big reason as to why I don't like Martinez. I think his approach in games has been very bad. But again, a game against Ireland, where you don't really have a lot of players available, or like the main players you want are not available, he failed to make a good approach to that game. He's failed to make great squad selections over the past months and years. I mean, we saw like this squad call up. We saw Carlos Forbes get called up. A guy had an amazing game against Barcelona Champions League for Club Brugge. I don't think he got deserved to be called ahead of Morda or Kenda, both guys who are starters in the youth teams in front of Forbes. So I don't get why he was called up or even got his debut handed to him before the Morda and Kenda was. So I do think that I think Morda got his debut. I don't think Kenda did. I don't know, something like that. I do think that I don't like Martinez. I don't think that we're going to win the World Cup with Martinez being at the helm. Also, I do know that right now there's not really a lot of matches available to be in our team. But if we're going to go to World Cup with Martinez as our head coach, I don't think we stand a chance at winning the World Cup.